Okay, welcome everyone to Miracle Monday. And we're delighted to welcome our brother Phil Williams to let's call it the stage or the hot seat, however you want to call it today. And Phil is going to share with us a little about his book. He's written a new book and it's called I'm going to say F You God. And hopefully we're going to hear all about that, like how that was, incepted and sort of like the birth of that and how that unfolded and and your healing journey, Phil. But right now I'm just going to read the bio that you sent me and we'll get started. Um, Phil's bio is that he was raised by a Methodist minister and eventually led Bible studies and mission trips, though never fully experiencing the peace spoken of within the scriptures. I played college football at Florida State University and then spent over 2.5 decades as an NFL agent, all the while raising 4 children. The oldest, who was my heart, died at 26 years old, and my world collapsed. I put all my energies into seeking truth, certain that I had been wrong in the past. I was led to A Course in Miracles 3 years later, and after less than 2 months, immersed within, experienced what the Course calls revelation. This was almost 6 years ago, and today I continue the journey back to where we have never left. Also, and as to this meeting, I recently completed a book that I knew was to be written when my daughter died. The fact that I was to write it and the title, Fuck You, God, both were given to me on the day she died. It was released on October 22nd, last week, on the 9-year anniversary of her death. They say 9 is a number of completion, and though I am not so much into that stuff, it does feel kind of cool. So, Phil, now would be probably a good time just for you to share, very casually, whatever you would like to share in relation to your book, in relation to your journey. And when you feel that you've done that, we'll open it up for discussion or questions, or we'll just let it evolve naturally.
I think I'll keep the opening pretty short and just allow it for questions mainly. But yeah, so um, you got my bio more or less, or a condensed version. When my daughter died on October 22nd of 2015, I called my mother. I mean, I was in the book. You get a picture of what those 100 days were like from the moment that she and I were alone together when we found out she was dying, and she and I were alone together when she died. You get a flavor of what those 100 days were like, and being a Christian, not just a run of the mill guy. I mean, I was a mission trip leader, a Bible study leader, all those types of things. Praying fervently, that the God of the Bible would heal my daughter. Um, and when she got worse every day and died, I uh, I talked to my mom, who her father was a Methodist pastor. Her husband, my father, was a Methodist pastor. And I can't explain this, but I think some of you can at least feel into what I'm saying here. I knew that I was to write a story, and that story was my life, because I knew that everything had changed. Everything had changed. Everything had to be discarded that I had previously believed. And the journey was going to be, I couldn't explain it because I was in such incredible grief and pain. But I knew that there was a journey before me that I was receiving on some level, that it was going to be told. And the name, I told my mother, I called her, I said, Mama, I'm going to write a book. And the name of the book is Fuck You, God. And my mama, my sweet mama, said immediately, I understand, because she saw what we went through. She saw all the stuff. She hurt too, of course. So that title is it wouldn't leave me. I kept trying to change it to be more palatable, but it wouldn't leave. Um, because I think, just like the course says, that not a soul has ever. I'm inserting the word soul. No one has ever come to earth that has not felt that God is cruel, and that was my statement, that the God that I believed in at that time was cruel beyond. I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't have said to this God. You know, I mean, it was way worse than the title. Trust me. And yet, I believe that in expressing that, feeling that, and allowing it, opened a portal, let's say, to where I was open to God being not what I thought. And so that, even though it was a tiny, tiny crack, it, I believe, was part of the reason I was uh, given to the journey. So, yeah, that just as a side street, in case I forget, I came to the States late July through August to do the audio book, and I probably spoke with, I'm going to guess, 20 to 30 random people during that trip, and each of them, it just, for some reason, it kept coming up. What are you doing here? You know, and I'm like, I'm recording an audio book. If it got to that, yeah. What's the name of the book? What's it about? And so whenever I mentioned the name of the book, I'm going to tell you, if it was 30 people, 28 of them were like, I want to buy that book.
Right.
Maybe one or two were like, oh, but it was interesting how well, because people, there's something missing, in the normal life, and everybody feels it.
Right.
And so I think there was a openness to someone being willing to call it out like that. And it wasn't that I was willing. I mean, it was just thrust up upon me and given to me. So yeah. Yeah, there's a lot I could say about it, but let me just leave it at that and just see where this thing is supposed to go.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. Let's just, I'm going to put this on gallery view here. The one thing that kind of came to me was that I'm surprised that that title hadn't already been taken.
I think it scares people. I think it scares people to be attached to it.
Right.
But and it's not that it didn't scare me some, but it just was. Oh, and I think, by the way, um, it's funny how the book cover came into being. We toyed around with different things, and it's like I had a vision. If you read the book, you'll see that sunflower has meaning in it, and um, it's. I mean, words mean what they mean to each person, right? And the word God, even, it's three letters that means lots of crazy different things to lots of people. But beyond it all, the willingness, the pain that to scream that out, and yet to have the flower come into play. It's subtle, but it has very, very deep meaning, and it will be revealed in its time. So.
So at this point, is there anybody that would like to perhaps share an experience, or is there anyone that, feels guided or inspired to say something or whatever? There's no rules here. If anyone feels that they want to talk about anything or ask a question specifically to Phil about his
And
journey.
before they do, I will just say, and I think that maybe somebody had, maybe Stephanie, you had said this, or whatever. If people are interested, I can read little snippets and/or segments. I don't want to drag people into stuff, but I can read some things to give people an idea of where the book is headed, the way that I communicate through story. And the way the book is shaped, it's a it's a funny thing, really. When I first started writing this thing years ago, I really kind of started writing it years ago. I was I wasn't telling people enough about myself. I began to realize people got to know me. I was kind of egoically, reverse egoic, keeping myself out of it in a sense, although it was about me.
Yes.
And so I started to begin to tell people about, get to know me so that they could walk through the what was coming with me. And so the story is basically, it's 4 parts, but there's an intro as well. And I can read some of the intro. I think that might
Okay.
help you get to see a little bit of stuff. But so there's an intro that sort of serves as a what's coming,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
then there's the first section is about Phil growing up, through college. The second section is about meeting the wife, having the kids, being an NFL agent. The third part is where it really starts to crank in. But now you've got to know me. Now you've got to know the things that have been shaping me. And that third part is my daughter, uh, her illness, what transpired during that illness. And oh boy, whew, you want to talk about angelic during illness. My daughter was it. But so I'm letting a little bit of the cat out of the bag and just tell you, I mean, 100 days of unbelievable stuff and never once complained.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been one. I would have been pathetic, seeing what she went through, but she wasn't. And then the that ends with her passing, and then the fourth and in some ways the main section is the journey that on some level we're all undertaking. But for me, it was thrust, just with the fuck you God as the fulcrum. So anyway, I'm if y'all are interested in that, and I can read a few pieces. I'll try to not to make any of them. I won't read any chapters or anything, but I can read a few small sections.
How about if you read part of the introduction?
Okay, I tell you what, I'll read the preface and the inspiration. None of it's super long, if that interests y'all.
That'd be great.
Um, Give me a second. I don't have the book, so okay. This is the preface. I gave this book a rather provocative title. Some of y'all probably love it, and some are probably shaking your heads, maybe even saying a prayer for me. Either way, I would ask you to give it a little space. You might be surprised at where it takes us. Also, this memoir may be different in other ways from some you may have read before. I say that because it's different for me. Though the heart of this story comes along in its good time, that heart can best be understood by getting to know it, by getting to know me. Thus will I take you on a journey, on my journey, as you continue your own. First of all, let me say that my story is not what I would call sweet. Yeah, it's got plenty of sweet moments, funny moments, intriguing moments. But once it gets to that instant where my world goes dark, sweet ain't the word that comes to my mind. Hell, maybe, but not sweet. And if you didn't get to know me along the way before that switch gets pulled, I'm not sure if you could even hang with me. I believe you can best get to know me and therefore better grasp what happens later by walking with me through the stories of my childhood and with a fairly significant dive into the world of sports, as they had their place in shaping me and my heart. If you're not a sports fan, don't worry. It's the stories of life, of insecurity and fear and hope and seeking, all within the context of sports, that reveal themselves within the realm that held such sway over me for such a large part of my life. I'm pretty sure I could merge into a tale of fingernail painting if it allowed me to experience your heart, though I don't know a damn thing about it. But it's not really about sports or fingernail painting or any other specific area that we find ourselves in. It's the story of life being worked out within our own unique substratum of existence. It's not so much about catching the ball as it is about why we think we need to catch it and what happens to us after we do catch it or even drop it. But once you walk with me through the childhood pranks, the teenage crazies, the college trials and triumphs, and my fatherly missteps and successes, maybe then you can sit with me when I get the news that my daughter is dying. Maybe then you can hang on for dear life as hers ebbs away. Maybe then you can stagger with me as I try to find my footing after her death. And maybe then you can rise up with me and face a life that neither of us would have ever asked for, and yet may well be what we've been searching for. I delve into my faith, my career, and of course, my family, and in particular, my daughter Hannah, all to give you as clear a picture as possible of what happened when and after I received the call that she was dying and when she died. Without a taste of what led me to that point, you wouldn't see the whole story. And it is a story that I want to share. So, yeah, maybe it's not your normal sweet, but I assure you that it's in there all along, fighting for room to breathe. It's found in Hannah and in others along the way, always waiting to reveal itself. If you stay with me through it all, you might just be surprised at how it surfaces. And oh boy, does it surface. Let's go. That's the preface.
That's very well done. Excellent. Now, it looks like Fran might have something to say. Fran, go ahead and unmute yourself right now.
Always have something to say. Well, less so. Bill, thank you. 9 years, you said it took to write this book? Okay.
Yeah, to finalize it for sure.
Okay. Well, whatever. That's a good hunk of time in this illusion of time and space. My curiosity has to do with that process. It's story, it's process, the process. I'm wondering if what were some of the surprises? What were some of the insights in writing the story? Clearly, the beginning and the end of the story, you know, there's beginning and ends, but there's always these now moments. And I was wondering if you were willing to share any surprises that you had or insights. I mean, when we review our own life, our childhood and all that, you know, I've been smacked upside the head over and over. I'm old, and and I'm reviewing and done a lot of work, you know, on myself. So I still get surprised. I still get a little, you know, shift in the perception of the same event, seemingly. Anyway, I'm babbling. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I think so. You know, I think for those of us who have lost a child, and it would have been the same with any of my children, and yet Hannah was a what we would call a unique human being. She was what people called an old soul. She was different, and she is the only person that I've ever met that totally accepted me with all of my stuff. She loved her daddy. And so we were very, very close together. In fact, we used to sit, even when she was in her 20s, we'd sit and hold hands like this, which is how she died, with us, with our fingers interlaced. So my point in all that is that for a while, even though I was given that information, and actually wrote a tiny segment of the book during those first few months because I was just catharticizing. That's a new word. And it was just such a blur. I mean, the first, you know, there are those that lose children that will say that their entire life is a blur after that. For me, it was a period of time. You know, I don't know exactly how long, but it's really hard to answer in that first period of time. There are many things in the book that will sort of help you with that, because I do go back, and the book, from the moment of her death, the journey is basically a 3-year period. So the last 6 years are not really part of the story. They are only in the sense that they bleed through in certain ways without telling the reader. But I mean, the journey of discovering the truth of who we are, I mean, is sure. I mean, there's incredible aha moments, you know. But in terms of writing the book, it was maybe I can even describe it a tiny bit like this. When I did the audio book, there's certain things in the book that are powerfully emotional things where, you know, you think daddy's going to be crying, right? And yet there's a piece of me that would not detach, but you put it in this place where you know she's okay. And so you're reading it okay. But little things would come out where I'm reading something that I had no idea, sort of like a minute ago. And it's just like, whew. I mean, I just would lose it in that little recording booth, you know? So we just learn things about ourselves, that our triggers, our I don't want to babble on unless I know that I'm answering you exactly, you know, what you're asking. The journey of healing from losing a child in the context of the world is brutal, and it's but my daughter gifted me.
Yeah.
If you'd have told me that early on,
Hey.
man or woman, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
But I know it's true.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Rose?
Yeah, I think this might tie into the question too. So I had read the hard copy of the book over the summer, but just now I'm listening to the audio version. And I'm I'm right at the beginning of section 4 now. But I jotted some notes down the other day because what I noticed this time through, and that might be one of like the themes that emerges, is the idea of abandonment and loneliness from some of the childhood stories, and then, you know, the loss of your daughter and things that occurred after that. And, you know, what you get to is that we can't really be alone or abandoned. And then once you hit that place, you stop looking for it in the world. But whether you've lost a child or not, I think it's something that we all go through in one way or another, because there's a grief that comes with letting go of the world, of thinking there's a scrap of safety here or something that we can cling to here. And once we realize that's not the case, there's a relief when you find out, you know, who and what you are, but sometimes a grief goes along with that because you're dropping everything that you thought, you know, was safe and secure here. So yeah, I just found that interesting because as I was listening the other day, that was like coming through very strong, just this theme of abandonment and loneliness. And I think everyone can relate to that, whether you've been through the loss specifically of a child or not. So
Really good point. Bill?
Yeah, the abandonment issue is really there for all of us for sure. And for me, it became more recognizable, more. Yeah, and there are stories as you're alluding to, Rose. Rose is one of the few people who actually read the manuscript for me, and so you may be noticing slight differences um, in the final version. But it's even after the end of the book, the abandonment issue has revealed itself even more clearly. And that probably allowed me to write it more clearly, or make or do it in such a way that you're feeling it from what you're reading and or listening to. But yeah, the feeling of utter abandonment, and yet the realization that we can never be abandoned, it is an incredible dichotomy. Incredible. So thank
And
you.
feel that the betrayal wound, I mean, I feel that that's very closely related to abandonment. You know, you're betrayed, right? You feel like you're betrayed, let's say by God. Those two, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to put words to some of this stuff because um, the betrayal is as it relates to God, it's sort of like you're not sure what you feel like you've been betrayed by. You know, I mean, you just have this picture in your mind as you're growing up and you're taught a certain thing, you know, and you've latched on, but you really don't know for sure what you've latched on to. You just put a lot of words in your head, you know, and teachings and whatever, you know. But then when the rubber hits the road in that kind of way that it did for me, it's yeah, I mean, like I said, I was within that the opening of the door for being open and honest about how I felt about what I thought was God allowed me to say maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about what I thought, and I'm open to that. And I feel like that was huge. I was willing for something to be different.
That's very
Just
good. Yeah. And do you feel that it was like the pain, the mental pain that brought you to the point of wanting something different?
yeah, well, you know, mental, psychological, spiritual, emotional, just pain, 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 right? Was like I couldn't. I didn't feel it was possible to be uh, believing what I had been believing. It the pain allowed for me to explore any taboos. I talk about these things, you know, things I would have never done before. Come on, bring it on. I'm open. You know, I'm not going to judge it. I don't know. You
Excellent.
know, and they were all part of my journey. I don't judge some of these things that I now look back and say, well, that's not actually truth, but it was part of my journey. It to me, it helped me along my way. You know, some of the things I did that I wouldn't necessarily recommend to somebody else.
Yeah. And can I digress for a little moment and talk about myself? You know, I just want to bring this in here just to sort of maybe let this sort of bloom into other territory as it goes along. But everything you're talking about, I can relate to, and I haven't lost a daughter. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, because we all feel that sense of deep loss, and I know I have gone through it, and I might sound like a broken record, but I know I don't, because I know that every time I bring it up, it's somehow helpful, not only for me, but for others. But I experienced that abandonment. I experienced that sense of betrayal ever since I started going through this eye of the needle. I just, it comes up sometimes for no reason. Sometimes it can be related to specifics, like you, for example, with, the loss of your daughter, for example. But I think we all experience this in a different way. So in other words, the stories are different, but the journey is the same. And that sense of enormous loss, or that fear, or that sense of betrayal or abandonment, I feel like it comes up for all of us. And it can be a really scary place. And that's why I think, like you sharing your story, yes, it's your story. It's a specific story and experience, but it's going to touch a lot of minds that may not have necessarily gone through the type of loss that you've gone through, if you know what I mean.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I didn't when I was talking to the publisher about who's your target audience.
Yeah.
It absolutely wasn't just those who have lost children. I
Right.
mean, it was pretty broad.
Right.
Um, Humans, anyway.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, we all have that, and yet this world, as we know, provides us with distraction after distraction to try to keep us from allowing that the shadows of our abandonment to rise into the light, right? So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't consider myself. I may have at one point, but I don't consider myself a victim. I don't consider myself any less fortunate than anyone else.
Right.
I was so blessed to have such a beautiful picture of grace in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So
And then I just want to say that, my parents abandoned me when I was 4 years old, so I know about abandonment. But in the long run, it was a gift because I spent uh, much of my life with many different people looking after me, which actually made me very resilient within the dream. But it was all leading me to a greater awareness. And, that abandonment that we feel always goes back to the fact that we abandoned God. That's what all these abandonment issues are. They all go back to that one moment when we thought that we abandoned God. And I can only, say from my own journey, and it took a while. I stuck with the course night and day. And eventually what happened to me is that I found out I wasn't abandoned. I mean, I had experiences that I can't even speak of. Some I do and some I can't even speak of, showing me that there was something outside of this world that loved me. Like,
no other.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You just got to stick with it, no matter, like, no
and it's
matter what.
there. It's there for everyone because no one's really been abandoned. It was us that, really, had that thought system of abandoning our creator,
Yes.
and our creator just waited for us to wake up and to
Yes.
realize that it's an impossible for us, to leave our source and that we are loved beyond our greatest imagination. So stick with it, guys. It's a journey like no other, and there is a lot of pitfalls. The ego pulls out some crazy shit while you're going through it, but as the course says, do not stop on the outside ring of fear, because at times you do want to stop,
Yeah.
and but you just keep going, keep going,
Yeah.
because it can't stop you. And believe me, there's such gratitude at the other end.
So beautiful. Doreen, did you have something?
So, hi, Phil.
Hey, Doreen.
I would like to know, hi. I would like to know if you will make your book available via Amazon Kindle, the Kindle app from Amazon.
Yes, it's actually available in several places right now. It's on Amazon, Kindle, and paperback, and it just takes them a while for some reason to put it on Audible. And unless it's happened in the last couple of hours, it's not there yet. But there's audio versions, as Rose attested to, it's on Spotify. It's Barnes and it's all the places you can get books. To be honest with you, it's just not. I'm a little. I like to read myself, but I'm a little partial to the audio version because I put a little bit into that as well. But yeah, it's available already. You can just you know what? Maybe I can give you the link to check it out if you want. I don't know how to do that on something like this. It's
I'll
but
post it up there for you.
huh?
I'll post it on the chat for you here.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Showing my limitations again. Thank you, Rose.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you,
else?
Doreen.
That's it, is it?
I
for
just
now?
like to tell you, the one thing that I get pissed about is that Phil's in Costa Rica on a beach and I'm freezing up here in Canada.
That's a little grievance.
There's no justice.
No,
It's just an illusion.
yeah,
It's an illusion.
yeah. Go ahead, Kenneth.
I'm in Ajijic, Mexico. I don't want to rub it in, Lloyd, but the weather down here is beautiful. No, this is great, Phil. This is great, Lloyd, because Lloyd, you were abandoned when you were 4, and I have an abandonment story. And I cannot tell how many times, I as a youth, mine took place at age 21, but as a youth, how many times I had to go out there and just scream and rage. And so Phil, you've inspired me. I've tried many times to write my story, but it's all turned into just simple journal entries. I've saved a lot of them. But as I finally, in my senior years, begin to emerge into the light and forgive Christianity, I had so much blame in my story, especially Christianity. But the guidance the last couple of years has just been helping me even unwind all that and open my heart again. So Phil, you've inspired me to sit down and maybe it's time for Kenneth to put his story into a book form. But it's like you said, Lloyd. I cognitively knew, this was the best thing that happened to me, because it put me on a seeker's path. But I couldn't really feel it. I stayed trapped up here for a very long time. And now in my senior years, I'm getting, small little God shots. I call them grace moments when I can actually feel it. And I think that's the green light that it's time I sit down and see if it's time to write, because, I think stories get a real bad rap in the ACIM community. If you're real low on the lower rungs of the ladder, we're not our stories. We're not our stories. Well, yeah, that's true. But the parables that we write are all the prodigals. We all write our own prodigal son parables. And the more we can see that all stories they may be different in form and same in content, these testimonies bring us home. Once the person's seen the light, like your testimony is beautiful. We can't. It's our responsibility to share the testimony. So that's my 2 cents on a Monday morning. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because it reminded me of something I've wanted to say, and that is this book. It became clearer and clearer to me that the story was meant to be mainstream. It's not for course students, for example, but it's for anybody. And because all of our brothers, and I say sisters as well, all of our brothers and sisters are part of the one, and that's just the way it is. And yet I have felt within myself, I write lots of things. I've got lots of other stuff, but the my heart is to tell story to touch somebody anywhere along the way,
Right.
anywhere along wherever we are on our journey. If you don't even have the slightest clue that you're looking, maybe I'm going to tell a story that is going to plant a seed. I don't know, but that's just, I don't feel especially called. I've talked to a couple of people on here about this. I don't feel especially called to be like a how-to guy,
Right.
not that doesn't occur some, that I don't share from what I've learned, but I feel more like I'm a storyteller who shares different types of story with people. Fiction, nonfiction, it's all fiction. To tell, it's like nonfiction section doesn't exist in my library, but to tell story, because there's something within all of us that's interested in story, and that can lead us to that place where we are seeking the experience of truth.
Right.
And
Well,
that's
a
just a
story is
story.
very powerful. I mean, that's what Jesus used. He spoke in
Parables.
Yes, for sure. And nobody understood him, right? But he was planting seeds for he who has ears to hear.
Right. When you're telling
I,
us, reaching everyone in that audience, let's say, at the level that they are at.
I think it's a Bible verse somewhere that says and I'm not going to get it right, but it says the holiest ground on earth is where an ancient hatred had turned into a present love. My story was different. I was bitter and angry because it wasn't a death. We disowned you. But when I found love for the people who quote unquote disowned me because I didn't discover disownment was impossible, then came out a pouring of love which wouldn't have been possible otherwise. So that's when the teachings of Jesus began to illuminate this man's consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll mute myself now. I'm in Mexico.
That's okay, Ken.
And I think, the really important is to, stick with the course, is to really stick with it. Because some of the, the material presented to us in the course, we resist completely. And it takes a lot of practice to break down that resistance until we finally say, wow, it just resonates with me now.
Right.
I got it, But that can take 5 or 6 or 12 different readings of one paragraph sometimes, because we look at it and we think, what did we think when the first time we read "There is no world"? Well, it really doesn't mean anything when we first read it. But as we keep reading that section, it becomes clearer. And to me, that was really important to not waver, not to go to different teachings, to stick with that one teaching. And after 15, 20 years, it starts to sink in.
And again,
I'm a slow learner.
yeah, and it's an individual curriculum,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So we just have to trust our own guidance in that. George, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Phil. Hi, everyone.
Hey, George.
I lost my daughter in June of 2015. She took her own life. And I kind of would characterize the result as sort of the abject opposite of gratitude. And we're taught by a lot of spiritual teachers that we should have gratitude, that's sort of the most desirable of states to be in. That I even have a quote by Meister Eckhart, which is, if all you did in your prayers was to say, thank you, God, that would be enough. And so my question is, how do you get from where you were to a place of gratitude if you did at all. And by the way, my favorite quote from the Course is, if this were the real world, God would be cruel.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's chapter 2. So that's sort of a hint as to where I headed anyway. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
You know, that's a good question. It's a great question. It's one that you know, again, I'm not belittling anyone else's pain. I mean, losing a child just it tears something out of the core of your being, you know, because I've come to see that everything here is a reflection, a picture. And, you know, even the extension, we call the extension of God, you know, his beloved, his son, his child, you know, they're our extension in the world of duality. And they're our closest, in many ways, for many of us, they're our closest conceptualization of what this love could be, right? And so when we lose that, it just tears something out of our foundation, you know. And for me, there's stuff in the book that'll sort of answer this question, George. But one thing I'll sort of let a little cat out of the bag, but not go too deep into it. There's a 1 year after she died. I mean, I was feverish in my attempt to find healing and truth, and you know, floundering around in that process. And I had probably, George, about 4, 5, 6 dreams that I could recall where my daughter would show up after she died, and they were horrible. I mean, she would look at me, and she wouldn't even stop to talk to me because she knew I couldn't see her. She looks, you know, it's not that she was sad, but she was sad for me. All right. It could have been to the day. I don't know. I wasn't keeping dates at that point, but about 1 year after she died, I had a dream. And in that dream, the joy upon her, as I was starting to kind of make a little progress in my seeking, you might say, I was very aggressive in it. I had a dream, a very vivid dream that I can still see today, where she said, "Keep on coming, Daddy. You're getting closer." I don't know what to call that, but I do know that my journey towards, it wasn't just about healing, it was about truth. And that the more these types of things happen, and then I experienced, you know, it's interesting, the what you just said too about Meister Eckhart. In the revelation that I experienced, those were the only words out of my mouth. The only vocalization was thank you. It was a thank you that this world knows not of. I mean, I honestly don't feel it at this moment, if I'm going to be blunt. But I know it's true. I know it's there. I feel the echo, you know. So
Sorry, you know what is there?
The thank you, the gratitude, that realization of gratitude that I could not have felt before then. So yeah, I mean, I think we all have our quote separate journeys to that we, whatever it is that shaped us, that we have to arises up to be exposed to the light, so to speak. And I can't ever say that what someone else has to go through in that sense is the same thing as me. I don't know that. But I did not know what gratefulness was until 3 years after my daughter died. I had no clue. So we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but I honestly didn't know what it was.
But
I mean,
what
I
was
was,
it? What
I'm
was
sorry.
it that got you to that realization of gratefulness?
Well, for me, and others can talk about this, but it's in the book. But it's not that I'm trying to make you read the book. I'm just for those who want to know more about it. I'm pretty explicit. I went into what I call the deepest part of hell you can go, and was then taken straight to heaven. And it's not explainable, and yet the feeling, for lack of a better word, was I mean, there's no words, but there is what exploded out of my mouth was thank you, thank you, thank you.
So it was kind of done for you.
Yes. Oh, I was kicking and screaming for sure. I was dragged. In a sense, I was dragged, but there was a release, George. That's the one thing I'll say, regardless of the circumstances that brought me to that place. There was, I believe, and you can call it forced on me. It's really hard to put it into an understandable place, but it was I finally understood what surrender was too. I mean, there's, you know, it's really tough to put into words, but surrender is, we think we surrender. I mean, I've heard it many times. I surrender all, back in the Christian realm. No, nobody's surrendering their damn thing. No offense. I'm not trying to judge. I just know from my experience, it's a nice concept. But there was a moment where my only hope of any type of survival was a surrender that was basically, to use your words, forced on me. I mean, I can't claim any credit. Let's put it that way.
Have you seen the movie Jacob's Ladder by any chance?
I have not.
Okay. There's a scene where the angel comes and rescues him out of this hell hospital.
Yeah, well, my hospital was lower than that one. Or it felt like it. I hadn't seen the movie.
It's an old movie, but you might like it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, though.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
I just want to say it reminds me of, talking about surrender, what Keith Kavanagh, the metaphor he uses, he says, die on the battleground. That's surrender.
Can you repeat that? Die on the battleground?
That's
yeah, that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that battleground I wasn't putting up much of a fight, though, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I was getting chopped up.
Well,
you had an experience of direct revelation. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
I didn't know that was a question. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was.
I recognize it. I always know when somebody's talking about it, they've had it, because I've had it. And you can't put it in words. It's beyond anything that we could even imagine. There are no words for it. As the Course says, there are no lips to speak them. But yeah, it's an experience that is absolutely beyond what any human could explain.
It's a expression of all of us.
Yes.
It's an instant awareness that no one anywhere ever could ever be left out. It's who we are. It's what we are.
Absolutely.
It's just not recognized until it's recognized.
And it comes
So it's okay.
It comes to every mind eventually. It's already been decided, and it comes for different reasons. For me, it was because I made a 360-degree shift within 1 week. I went from one state of consciousness to another. And something in the universe knew I was going to need a lot of help, because when I made that shift, the ego came down on me like with gangbusters almost immediately. And I thought I was actually being attacked by God. And because in truth, the only reason that any of us appear to be here is because we are afraid of God. And when the shit hits the fan, that unconscious guilt that we feel for, trying to usurp the power of God comes forth. And it's like it starts we start to feel that what the ego told us, that God was out to get us. It's true. And we have to be really grounded at that point in listening to the Holy Spirit the best we can, because that's what gets us through. Because if we didn't have help from outside the dream, we'd be in big trouble. And so all of us get, eventually everybody gets direct revelation at some point. And there's no rhyme or reason as to why that comes about. It's different for, as we all, the course says, we're all on an individual curriculum. So it happens for many different reasons. Would be the loss of somebody. Mine was a shift in consciousness. So there's thousands of different reasons that happens. And it happens because you've made a shift in some way of not wanting to be alone anymore, because we are alone here. We chose it. We were unified with everything, and then we chose this world where we are alone. And, that's what we have to break, that barrier, to realize that even here we're all unified. There's no space between any of us, and yet it takes a lot of mind training to, to understand that. So I just wanted to say that everybody is going to get direct revelation at some point. It's already been decided. And once you've had it, the world will never be the same.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, who's next? I think Sean, I think you might have been next. But yeah, go ahead, Sean, and then we'll get to you, Patricia.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. And hi, Phil.
Hey, Sean.
Nice to meet you.
And same.
Yeah, I think I could have done with this book about 16 years ago. Because I went through a similar experience myself. Like, I'm not going to go into too many details about it because it is quite an emotive subject, just as it was for yourself. I had my first son when I was 30 years old, born on my birthday. Um, Born on my birthday was like the greatest gift God could ever give me. Like, my son was born on my birthday. I even wanted to name him after myself and whatever. But anyway, my partner at the time, she named him Cody. And everything was fine. He'd been born into the world, beautiful little boy. And one evening, me and my partner at the time, I'm not with her anymore. We're still great friends, but I'm not with her anymore. But about 12 o'clock in the night, we heard like some noises coming from his room. So we went in there, and he was making some noises. Well, anyway, long story short is he was having seizures, um, and they were like a rare form of epilepsy. And basically, he was crawling and doing all the things that he was supposed to be doing up until about 6 months old. But then when he started having these seizures, he went back to being like a naughty-year-old baby. Like, he couldn't move, couldn't even drink properly, and stuff like that. And anyway, long story short, um, he had he, he had this rare form of epilepsy that couldn't be controlled, and he was having these seizures every single day, like all the way through the day. And we were just watching my son like being ruined by these seizures. Like, all of his development was being ruined by it, and it basically destroyed his brain, literally. And we just had to watch him suffer every day for 5 years. And in the fifth year, his seizures got so bad that his whole system started breaking down, and he passed away. And I don't want to go into too much of it, but as you all know, parents shouldn't in this world shouldn't be burying their own children. That's one of the thoughts that came to my mind at the time, or shouldn't be saying goodbye to their children. But anyway, it was 5 years of absolute hell. I used to walk around every day seeing other parents with children, and just used to wish that I could have a healthy child just like them. And I was just walking around the world, and it was a very, very, very dark place, very dark place. And I just remember the same thing as the book, is like thinking, fuck you, God. You know, this is just, why would you do it to me? Don't do it to this little child. Like this child, he hasn't done anything. Like he's just been born into the world and having all these injections and drugs and pumped with this and pumped with that and made to suffer and then die. Was just seemed like the world was really unfair, completely unfair. And so I was sticking my middle finger up at God for 5 years, and it was 5 years of absolute hell, absolute hell. And anyway, the he and it was quite tormentive as well. It's like a tormenting sort of thing, because sometimes he would have seizures all the time, and then other times he would not have seizures for like 6 months, and then in 6 months you start seeing him crawl, you start seeing him get on his own feet, you start seeing him say a few words like dada, and then he'd have some more seizures, and then he'd go back to being a baby again. So it was always, he was like making progress and then he was being undone, making progress and being undone, and it was very torturous. The thing is that the reason why I'm bringing it up is because two reasons really. One is because I was like, F you, God. But because he never got the ability to develop his mind to a point where he had an opinion about things, he was always the most happiest, joyous, beautiful, loving, happy child. Like, even though all these things were going on for him, he was so happy. He was the happiest thing. And it never occurred to me until just now that one of the reasons why he probably was happy was because he never developed an ego. He never actually got to that stage where he could develop an ego. And it's sort of like, it's like an aha moment in this to say, well, actually, suffering only starts when we start thinking about things. Our perception of his world was that he was so unfortunate, but his perception of the world was nothing but, oh, daddy, mummy, this is the world. And he had no complaints about the world whatsoever. So the point of me sort of getting to this is that one of the things that I've realized in recent months is that life is okay when you don't have an opinion about things. Life is okay when you don't compare your life to something else. Life is okay when you don't separate good from bad. Life is okay when you don't mentalize everything. And yeah, he was just such a happy kid because I thought he was really unfortunate, but really he had 5 years of absolute joy. He was the happiest kid, but we were the saddest parents. And it was just a weird scenario to really look at. But for me as a parent, it was like hell on earth, but to him, every day was heaven. And I don't know how this is going to sit with everybody in this Zoom meeting, but I can relate to what you're saying, Phil, in the sense that there's certain aspects of life that make you think, why? Like, why is this so horrible? Why is this so difficult? Why is this so unfair? And the answer to the question is the mind. It's the mind the part of the mind that thinks, that separates the good and the bad, is the part of you. Two things. One, part of you that happens in you, but two, it never happens to you. And when we can recognize that thinking is happening in you and not to you, we can stop the belief of thinking that the mind is attacking you. And the question that I'll bring into it is, what if the mind is actually attacking itself and not you? How would the world be then? Would you still hate the ego? Would you develop a love for the ego when you realize that the mind isn't attacking you, it's just attacking itself?
Right.
But again, removing the capacity to make those decisions is removing the capacity to hurt yourself. And now I look at my past and I don't think that I was unfortunate. I think that was an opportunity to expand my awareness on how the mind works and what it's capable of if you don't look at it properly. The mind isn't there to attack you. In fact, the mind cannot attack you. The mind doesn't have eyes. The mind is just a bunch of thoughts that talk to each other. It has no way of looking out from itself. The only thing that has the capacity to look out from itself is you, the awareness. The awareness looks in at everything, but everything doesn't look back at awareness. And when that's realized, you realize that,
Just
yeah,
interject for one moment, maybe just to sort of bring it like in, maybe like to the Course in Miracle conversation a little bit. It might be to my benefit and to maybe others. I think what you're sort of driving at is the fact that the ego, none of the thoughts I think are my real thoughts. That's ultimately what's being said here. In other words, the ego, all the thoughts that we're thinking are coming from the ego. And so our only real thoughts are the thoughts we think with God. And
well, what loving God would create a mind to attack you?
No, he wouldn't he didn't create the split mind.
Yeah.
He didn't create the split mind. So that's why I just wanted to clarify that.
There's two parts of the mind.
Yeah.
The right mind and the wrong mind. And the wrong mind is the part that the ego made. And as the Course says, the ego made the body as an attack on God and made the world as a place where God could not enter. Now, you really have to get into the metaphysics of the Course, but minds cannot attack. It's an impossibility. Bodies attack, but the mind that made the body actually can attack the body and does so. And the Course,
But you're not the body, though.
no, but you think you are. That's where
so it's the thought
that's
that
where the
was in the mind. It's the thought within the mind that thinks it's the body.
Yes, the ego has convinced part of the mind, not all of it, has convinced part of the mind that it is now a body. And of course, the Course says what happens is that when we enter this reality of illusion, we forget our former reality, which is actually mind. In lesson 158 in the Course in Miracles, it says, what have you learned? That you are a mind, in mind, and purely mind. In other words, none of us that are in this room right now during this session, we're not here. We're strictly projections from that mind, but we're part of that mind that's awakening.
Yeah.
And as the Course says, nobody has ever died, but within the illusion, I mean, death is just a representation of, we thought we killed God. I mean, it's like when we thought we lost God, that was the worst death we could ever experience. And of course, when we lose,
sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
I was going to say, all the things that you're mentioning there, though, are at thought level.
Yeah, but
we're not thoughts. We're not thoughts. We're not thoughts, though. We're not actually thoughts, though. We're actually observing thoughts. So the thoughts that exist within the mind are the thoughts that are attacking each other. They're attacking the bodies. They're attacking the individuals.
Who is it that's thinking?
The mind, not us.
That's it.
It's who we are is we're the witness. We're the witness which observes the thoughts that happened in the mind. So although the thoughts happen in us, they don't happen to us.
No.
But we believe they do, and that's the part that needs to be undone.
That's the part that needs to be undone, to realize that there is no us. That's why the Course says there is no world in lesson 132, and explains why there is no world. Because all this is simply projection from a split part of the mind that is now awakening and realizing that what it's projected is not true. It like the Course calls it a dream, whatever you want. But in truth, once you've had, let's say, direct revelation, you'll know you have never ever come into a body, and you'll know you've never left the source in God. And that's what we're all here to learn, is that we've actually never left our source. What's the Course say? We are reviewing mentally that which has gone by. In other words, nothing is even happening now. We're all home, safe at home in God, but we're reviewing mentally one of our lifetimes of many lifetimes.
But home is the witness presence. It's the witness. Home is the actual point, which is before the phenomenal seeing. So the formless aspect of us is outside of time, which sees the form appearing inside the mind, right? So the witness, you could call the witness or the consciousness the mind as well, because it does have an aspect of seeing, but there's a separate part of the observing, which is happening inside consciousness, which is the mind, the dualistic mind. The dualistic mind is witnessed.
Yeah,
so it's being witnessed from home. It's being witnessed from home, and where home is has no opinion, has no thoughts of the mind itself, which is why it's one of the reasons why we're watching from unconditional love. Unconditional love is watching the mind, and even though what's happening inside of the mind is unloving, is not good, bad, whatever, because perfect love is watching it, it doesn't intervene. It just watches. It remains as the watcher, because what kind of love would stop its son, let's say, from doing what it wants to do, even if it is unconscious? So home is the witnessing aspect of us. And I think that's what the Course is trying to teach us. I think the Course is trying to teach us that home is the witness alone, watching the mind inside itself and not doing anything. Like what Ken Wapnick says, the mind looks at devastation and reminds the mind looks on devastation and reminds the mind that what it sees is false.
Absolutely.
What it means is what it's watching is not you. So the thoughts that are happening in you are not happening to you. They're just happening in you. And when you realize that they're not happening to you, just happening within you, then you can accept the mind. And that acceptance is the love that you are. When you can watch the mind and realize the mind is attacking itself, because that's the nature of itself. It's attacking itself.
No, but the ego is just attacking.
The ego is attacking itself. It's insane. Why is the ego insane? Because it believes in suicide and it believes in attack, and it's attacking itself, not knowing it's attacking itself. And the reason why it doesn't know it's attacking itself is because it's not conscious. Only what's watching the attack is you. That is conscious. And that's what the Course is trying to teach us. It's trying to teach us that the attack that's going on within us is not to us. We are safe at home watching, and it hasn't put a scratch on us.
Well, because it hasn't put a scratch on us because we're not a body.
It hasn't put a scratch on us because it's not attacking us.
There is no us to attack.
That's the reason why it's not. If we were attack a bull, then it would be attacking us. But the ego can't attack us because the ego can't see us.
There's no communication between.
The ego cannot see the self. It cannot.
There's no.
And that's why it's attacking itself. It's making you believe that it is you. And it's that belief that needs to be undone. That you're watching this fight go on within you, but it's not happening to you. It's happening within the kingdom.
Well, that's grappling within the mind, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that you really have to understand is, and not many people want to talk about this. It's like Urantia. There's a part of that mind that made this world that likes it and wants to keep it. And when your part of the mind is starting to awaken, that part of the mind that made this kingdom and wants to rule it through sin, guilt, and fear is the one that is trying to intervene to stop you from passing through the veil, to realize that you are the mind, the dream.
But that's all thoughts, though, isn't it? They're all
That's-
thoughts and stories
That's
that are
the-
preventing you from being the self that is just the witnessing aspect of the Son of God is the witness.
Yeah.
Like when Jesus looked at when Jesus says, "Oh, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do,"
Right.
what that meant is he's detached.
Right.
He's
absolutely.
detached from what's going on. He's letting it go on because they don't know what they're doing, which is the ego doesn't know it's attacking itself. The egos don't know they're attacking each other. But the part of you, the real Son of God, is the part of you which is able to look without judgment.
That's it.
And the reason why you can look without judgment is because you know it's not you having the fight.
Right.
It's the ego having the fight with itself.
Right.
That's
And
it.
just notice how that realization creates a shift in you.
Right.
Notice how that perception creates a shift in you. It has to be true. It has to be. The ego doesn't have eyes. If it had eyes, it would see it was insane and it would be able to do something about it. But the ego cannot fix its own problems because it doesn't have the capacity to see. It only has the capacity to think. And thinking doesn't have sight. Only that which is watching the thinking has sight. That is the Son of God. That is us. And that is freedom right there. That is instant revelation. That is instant, you're totally free in that. And I beg anybody to challenge that. I know, I've tested it myself. I know that is it. There's never ever a fight that goes on within me anymore that I recognize is actually mine. It's happening within me, but it's not to me. It doesn't even know I'm watching. If it knew I was watching, it would stop. And that's part of the thing that needs to happen in our development with awakening, is we have to show the ego that who we are. And we show the ego who we are by not reacting.
Well, the Course puts it this way,
If we act into it,
our
we then become
mind-
the ego.
and we must be in charge of our own mind.
No, we're not. We're not.
The Course
We're
says
not.
we are the ruler of our mind.
It says, I rule my mind.
I
We're
rule
not.
my mind. Yeah.
And the mind is the agent, or I should say the activating
agent of spirit. Yeah.
What's more loving, that the world was made as an attack on us, or was an attack on itself?
Well, it says it was the exact words from A Course in Miracles are, it was made as an attack on God. And then it says, then the world was made as
But God can't be attacked. God can't be attacked. God
Well,
cannot be attacked
Exactly.
because it is the creator.
But it was made as an effort to attack God, which it's an impossibility.
But hear that out. It was made as an attack on the creator that created it. How could that make any sense whatsoever?
No,
Well,
the
we
ego
can't
doesn't
attack
make
our
sense.
creator.
It's only an idea, a thought. That's a
Convinced we
thought.
could.
It's a thought that it might be a thought of attack on God, but in reality, the thought is existing in God, but it's not God. So the war can happen, but it's not happening to God, because God is not the physical aspect of this whole existence. God is the presence. God is the thing that holds it all and gives life to it all. Watching it unconditionally with love, allowing it to just do what it's doing. And what we're here to do is to awaken within the world to realize that we are God observing the world, and the world is not attacking us. We are here having an experience, a godlike experience in a physical body. Now, I'm not asking you to buy that, but all I'm trying to say is that this world cannot be an attack on God.
No.
Because God can't be attacked. If it could be attacked, then it could be true. But if God can't be attacked, it's just a false story. It's a false story before it's even started, because you can't attack God. How can you attack God?
Okay, guys.
God is everything.
Yeah, well, what we're going to do now, we're going to get to Doreen, and Doreen, you can take yourself off mute.
Yeah.
Say,
Sean, I was listening to you, And what came to mind is that revelation by the Holy Spirit will make everything crystal clear. And that's the only thing that will make things clear to us in a way that we're going to see things like God does. And that's the only thing that I would like to share. I hope that is helpful.
Absolutely beautiful. And you know, that's what Lloyd says. I laugh at Lloyd because he says, you can't explain Revelation. No, you can't explain it. It's beyond words. And yet, every time I hear an explanation from Lloyd or Phil or anyone else that's had it, it's absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that Lloyd said one time was that when you have revelation, it's like you get a download from God. You're downloaded with all knowledge. And then you're sent back to help your brothers and sisters, and plus your own forgiveness lessons. You know, it's not all hearts and flowers necessarily after you let's call it what, come back into consciousness after revelation. But I love that idea is of that you're downloaded with all knowledge, because that's what God is, all knowledge.
And
with a
what you
capital
learn
G.
from direct revelation is that there is no life outside heaven. Bodies don't have the spirit in them, and they contain no life whatsoever.
And also that this world is a piece of
Shit. Really, once you've had that experience, this world is like a piece of dog shit. Literally.
Well, Doreen and I have been on a journey together, going through, you could call it the 5th stage of the development of trust. And we've developed an amazing, beautiful, deep bond in our mutual understanding. Bill?
Yes?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. It is quite a journey.
What'd you say, Doreen?
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephanie. It is quite a journey.
You can say that again.
Yeah.
You can just picture a Vitamix. Picture a Vitamix, and that's the journey.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to leave you all. I want to say goodbye to everybody, and I really enjoyed this meeting. And Stephen Lloyd, I hope you'll be able to continue the Miracle Mondays, even if it's only once a month.
Yeah, we're just playing it by ear. Next month we have Raj. Raj is going to join us. So we're like I said, we're
Great.
playing it all by ear. We're giving everyone 3 or 4 days notice. So love you.
And we've got word out that Jesus may join us one of these days too. Stay tuned for
I
that
think
one.
Jesus already joins us.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry. I want to just ask, I can't find on my screen what I click on to put my hand up. Am I just not looking for a place? I don't want to speak, but I can't find it.
I understand that. You're like me now, Ardith. I'm like, this is like the blind leading the blind, because I'm
Exactly.
not. Yeah. Because they're after changing Zoom a little bit, but does anybody else know how to put their electronic hand up? Maybe we can help Ardith.
It's React. If you click on
If
the
you
React
hit on
button
the
at the bottom-
React button, there's an option for raise hand.
I don't have a React. It doesn't say React anywhere on the
it's a
bottom.
heart. It's a heart
At the very
symbol.
bottom.
Okay, React.
No, it doesn't say that.
It's
There's
got a-
nothing.
There's so many different versions out there. It's
Oh,
hard to
well.
know. Yeah.
No, mine
If you can
mine must be a totally new one because this doesn't look like the normal Zooms that I've been
No,
on
it's
before.
different. It's all upgraded. But Ardith, if you can find your React button and it's got a heart above it, just click it.
Doesn't-
Right above it, it says raise hand.
Yeah, that her version doesn't have it. Are you on? What device are you on?
Device. I'm on a laptop. Yeah, I don't know what.
Is it a Mac or a PC?
No, a Hewlett Packard.
Okay, so do you have Zoom Workplace? That version of Zoom?
Truthfully, I don't know.
It'll say up at
rather
the
than
top.
listen, rather than taking time up, what I'll do is I have a friend who knows what's going on with computers. I will check with him, and then next time around, I won't have to interrupt and go help. I'll know what I'm doing. So, but I appreciate your attention.
Now, in the meantime, Ardith, did you have something you wanted to ask?
No, not really. I'm just today. I just kind of wanted to listen, and so that was no. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, but no. But I will check it out because I want to check out the other when you come back and do the other ones, the other reviews. I mean meetings. Yeah. Thank you anyway.
Okay, guys, so what do you say we call it a day? Now, we don't have to. I mean, we don't have to take off yet unless, whatever. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the meeting. Okay, I'm going to end the recording. So thank you, Phil. Of course, you know the way it goes now. We get into the after party and all the good stuff comes out. But I'm going to end the recording now. And I just want to thank you, Phil, for your beautiful contribution and insights that came forth today. I have a feeling some of them were fresh insights, as to your
I'm looking
journey.
forward to reading the book. I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but
Yeah.
I want to read it.
Yeah. Okay.